You realize that God still trusted you with his stuff. God still trusted you with his stuff. That's intimidating. Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Book of Brianna, a podcast. I am your host, Dr. Brianna Whiteside, and I'm so excited to chat with you today. Y'all, I really am excited because if you would have known the struggles that I've been going through to record this podcast, first of all, let me tell you about a few of them. I'm recording on a broken podcast. Broken podcast. That's how frustrated I've been. I'm recording on a broken tripod. Somehow my tripod broke and my new one hasn't arrived yet. Secondly, right when I turn on my camera to record, my SD card that has the most storage broke. I don't know how it broke. Here I am. So I'm recording on a slower writing SD card. And so I'm just like, okay, I gotta get it out. I gotta get it out. I have to do it. Come hell or high water, I'm gonna record this today. And so aren't you proud of me for pushing through some of the struggles, because the way this camera is rigged up on this tripod. Anyway, before I get started, can I just ask you to like the video? Please like the video, the podcast, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with a friend, because sharing is caring. Don't be stingy. Share the information. Y'all, in today's podcast, I want to talk to you about the right time not being the right time. How the right time still won't feel like the right time. And here's the funny thing. Had I known that God was really going to use this podcast as another way for me to live my life publicly, I probably would have tried to resist it, because I'm really an introvert. I know you may not get that, but if you've ever met me in person, I am more quiet. I am lower key. Like, my energy level kind of hovers around a 4 or a 5. I'm not out there. I'm not kikiing. I'm not. I am an introvert. But my calling is forcing me to be an extrovert. Even my career has forced me to be an extrovert, has forced me to be public in ways that naturally Brianna would be behind the scenes chilling. But that's just not who God called me to be. And so there's no chill for me. But I want to talk to y'all about, for real though, this current time that we're in. So here's what I know. We are used to, as believers, we're used to hearing people say, God's timing ain't your timing, right? And that's generally slanted to the negative. When we're getting impatient, when we're getting frustrated, when, we're tired of just waiting on God and waiting on his promises, and we don't want any more encouragement. We want him to come through. That's kind of when we hear those statements. Your timing ain't God's timing. But what if they're also true in the positive? What if when God says it's time for you now to ascend, it's the worst time in your life? You may be going through a breakup and God's like, go ahead and do this. Go ahead and do that. And you're like, no, I just want to lick my wounds. And there is a season for that. But when God says, oh no, it's your time. When God calls your name, he expects you to move, because his timing is not our timing. Y'all, that couldn't be more true of my life right now. My life right now is a lot. I'm watching my words. It's a lot. It is a lot. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things that I am not sure about. There are a lot of things that, I have a healthy fear of. And there are a lot of question marks. There are a lot of question marks. And I would have thought that in seasons where I was really stable, God would have me to do the things that he's calling me to do right now. But what I'm learning is that even though I am unstable, or what I perceive to be unstable in some of maybe my emotions or my frustrations, or, some areas in my life that I would love to be stable in, he's called me to do it in this season for that very reason. For that very reason of, Brianna, now you have to depend on me. Now you have to depend on me. If you were stable, then you wouldn't necessarily pray the way you pray. You wouldn't move the way you move. You wouldn't come talk to me. If you were stable, you wouldn't do any of that. You would have literally taken my promise and taken my instruction and ran with it. You wouldn't have included me. But because you feel unstable, because you feel unsure, now you have to fully rely on me. Now you have to invite me into the process. Now you have to ask me to be the big God that you profess with your mouth that I am. No, you got to depend on me as daddy. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. This season of my life is an uncomfortable season, but it's also teaching me some very, very valuable lessons that I don't think I would have learned elsewhere. And even though I feel like, yo, God, this is the worst time. Like, we don't have a lot of time to do what you're telling me to do. And he's like, I know. That's why you're going to have to depend on my spirit. I know. That's why you're going to have to trade your strength for my strength. You're going to have to trade your feelings for my ability. You're going to have to fully rely on me. And I'm like, yeah, but I thought I was already doing that. It's like, nah, because when you go from glory to glory, I'm requiring another level, not only just of sacrifice, but of reliance, of trust, of clarity, of time with me. And what I know to be true is that sometimes so many people have just started feeling frustrated, started to feel defeated, especially as we're crossing over into the fourth quarter, feeling like, yo, I haven't done anything with my life this year. None of the New Year's resolutions that I have made, I've executed. I haven't lived up to it. And sometimes, and you know, we are entering into those winter months, and y'all know what happens in the cold months. We're in the house longer, daylight savings time, all the things. People start to feel certain types of emotions. And so then I know there's another category of people that are like, I've been working this whole year and God hasn't done anything for me. I've been obeying, I've been plowing, I've been showing up, I've been sacrificing, I've been crying, spitting, and farting. Like, I've been doing all the things. And I'm so frustrated and I'm so tired of Christians and other people telling me to trust God. I've been trusting God, right? I'm actually low-key pissed off with God. Like, I'm actually frustrated. I actually don't want you to encourage me because, you know, I feel satisfied in my anger. I feel satisfied in my feelings towards God right now. I know that about that group of people too. And then there is the other group of people who are like, let's go. I've been waiting for this for so long. It's finally my moment. It's finally my opportunity. Y'all know we just stepped into 5784. Folks are amped. Folks are excited. But then after we rah-rah and the confetti falls to the ground, we realize, yeah, we let's going, but I don't have room for this. I've filled up my calendar so much that there's actually no room for what God is saying that he wants to do this season. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the bandwidth. Right? So we have these three types of people. And the truth is that we're all being challenged in one way to understand what it really means when we quote that quote, your ways are not our ways. Your thoughts are not our thoughts. That ain't even a quote. That's a scripture. When we say that God's timing is not our timing, what does that really mean? And what does that require of you? What does that require of you? I want you to sit with that question, to understand, to fully know that, yo, God's ways are not my ways. And God's thoughts are not my thoughts. And his timing definitely haven't been my timing. Like, what does that require of you to be able to sit in that tension? Whether you're at any of the stages that I have just mentioned, what is required of you? And it's easy to just say trust, right? That's just a blanket statement that we say. But like, what does trust actually look like? What does moving according to God's timeline and timetable for your life actually look like? How does sacrifice in this season, how does that look? Have you just sat and considered those questions? Because I can't say that I hadn't considered them because I didn't necessarily have a reason to consider them. Sometimes I get, you know, in this cycle of like, okay, this is what God want to do. Okay, let's just obey. That's the magic word, obey. But I haven't considered, what does obedience look like when God says, you are about to ascend? What does obedience look like when you're at the foot of a mountain and you're staring up and you're looking up at this mountain? Because it's different when you see the mountain from afar off. It's different when, say for instance, you're in an airplane and you're flying over mountains. They look so small, they look so pretty, they look so cute. But it's different when you're walking up to a mountain and you're in close proximity to that mountain, and you stand at the base of that mountain and you look up and realize, this is bigger than me. I don't know if I have what it takes to climb this mountain. I don't know if I have the team. I don't know if I have the support. And honestly, like looking at the how massive this structure is in front of me, I wonder, did I really hear God? I wonder, did I really hear God? Because the thing that's facing me, the thing that I am standing at the base of, looks impossible to climb. This looks impossible for me. And that's kind of where I am with something in my life right now. Like, yeah, I know that I come on here and I encourage y'all. I come on here and I serve as a model of inspiration to move you forward, but I'm facing a mountain. I'm at the feet. My feet are touching the base of a mountain and I have to climb up. And though I've seen the mountain when I was in the airplane flying over it for the last few years, though I've seen the mountain when I was actually walking up to it, now that I'm at the mountain, standing face to face with this mountain, I'm shook. I'm shook. And I feel like there's a healthy fear there. And I'm not talking about the kingdom of fear. I think the healthy level of fear that I'm talking about is knowing that this thing you cannot do without God. It's knowing that, man, a human can't do this, right? It's you realizing that you are coming to the end of your rope. It's you realizing that God's plans for your life and purposes and the things you've been asking for are just that. They're God-sized. And your small human self and all your intellect still cannot calculate how to get there. That is the fear I'm talking about. Coming face to face with the truth of yourself, of your smallness in the grand scheme of things. Understanding that what God has called you to do is so much bigger than you. But even though it's bigger than you, He's called you to do it. And He's trusted you with the responsibility of it. He's trusted you with His stuff. I think that is what I'm trying to articulate. And I'm about to tear up here, y'all. I guess maybe it's just an emotional season for me, but y'all about to see it, okay? Understanding that even in your humanness, even in your feelings of inadequacy and feelings of, not wanting to get it wrong and humility and all the things, you realize that God still trusted you with His stuff. God still trusted you with His stuff. That's intimidating. For me, someone who tries to do the right thing, someone who tries to live on purpose, someone who tries to walk upright, to keep a good name, that's still intimidating for me. And I've done so many things in my life, y'all, and I've accomplished so many things, but when you know that you're doing a God thing, right? Because up until this point, they've been God things, but they've also been Brianna things. God's like, I need her to train. So I'm gonna let her train over these years. These are good. She's ascending, but this is her training ground. I guess we can think about it in terms of the military, right? You go through your basic training, however many weeks that is for people. You go through your basic training, and then you actually step into the branch of military that you're training for. That's what I am. That's where I'm at. That's where I am. I've been training for the last 10 years of my life for what God is, asking me to do now. And now the training is over. Now basic training is over. Now, God's like, you ready. Go ahead and get out of this wilderness season and step into the promised land. Now I'm like, yo. It's kind of like the children of Israel, right? When they go and spy out the land, they kind of like, yo. It's giants in the land. It's some big grapes and pomegranates, whatever the fruit is that they brought out. They like, yo, look how big these spoils are. Look how big this stuff actually is. Like, I know we was tired of this wilderness. But there is a point where, we all get accustomed to the wilderness that we say we're tired of, because we've learned to adapt to the conditions in the wilderness. We've learned to adapt to waiting on God. We've learned to adapt to survive. And now God's like, now it's time to thrive. Now it's time to thrive. And thriving with God is different than thriving in our own human strength. Thriving with God is literally letting him carry you through. Like, it's just like what I'm seeing right now is like an eagle picking you up and carrying you throughout the air, right? The eagle, this is normal territory for the eagle. The eagle is fine flying. They can do tricks if they want to. They're good at altitude. The eagle is like, we got this. This is my natural habitat. But you, a human who doesn't have flying capability, you probably screaming like, Lord, please, eagle, please don't drop me, please. I can't fly. Like, you got one eye open like this. You're trying to squint. You're like, I'm scared, but I need to see what's happening if I'm about to fall so I can brace. All of the things like that that's where God has a lot of us. And when we're thinking about going back to the children of Israel and going back to, you know, them adapting to survival mode, there was also fear when they was about to go, when they were entering into the promised land. And I don't have my Bible in front of me, but I believe it's when God is talking to Joshua. And he's talking about don't be afraid, fear not. And, you know, he's encouraging him to be strong and be courageous and all the things. Why would God have to give Joshua this pep talk if going into the promised land wasn't intimidating? Why would God actually have to come and coach Joshua through it if stepping up to the doorway of the promise was not going to be frightening? Because there is truth that we could circle around something for so long. We can be in a season for so long that even though we want better, we won't go into the better and we won't go get the better when it's presented to us because we're scared of what it's going to cost us. We're scared of what we're going to have to give up because, I mean, this has been your normal for 40 years. You know, that's the children of Israel story. This has been our normal for 40 years. And now we're about to go into this promised land, and there are big things in this promised land. And even though we want to be in the big things, in the bigness, we want the bigness, we tired of the small, we scared because the last 40 years, all we've known was the small. All we've known was struggle. A whole generation was born into it, into the struggle. 40 years. So imagine being born in the wilderness. And then at 40, God's calling you out and saying, now it's time. And you're like, what you mean? This is my normal. I have a routine here. This isn't the right time, God, because this is what I've grown accustomed to. As a matter of fact, you put me in this wilderness. I was born into the wilderness. This is true for so many people. I was born into poverty. I was born into struggle. I was born into this thing. You put me in this lineage. You put me in this season, and now you're telling me time is up. Time is up there. It's time to step into the promise. And you're like, this isn't the right time because I don't even know what's going to be required of me on this next level. I haven't even thought that far. I haven't even planned for it. I just knew I hated this wilderness place. I just knew I hated, you know, what I was seeing in my family. I just knew I hated it all. But I didn't really consider what I would do when you actually say, it's my time. Because I was used to it not being my time for the first half of my life. That's sobering. That's sobering. Because when God says it's time, it may not be the right time for you. It may not be the right time for you, but it will be his timing, in his timing for you. And you have a choice to make. I could choose, even in my feelings of overwhelm, even in my crying, spitting, and farting moments, I could still choose to opt out. I could still choose to say, I have so many other things going on. I don't know why my back itching like this. I have so many things going on that I'm not, can you get somebody else to do it right now? I can be tempted to say that, but then I'm like, what if this moment doesn't come around again? Y'all remember I just did a teaching, and if you haven't seen that teaching, you need to check it out, called Here Comes Your Replacement. I just did a teaching telling you that your replacement is ready. They are. And in the teaching, I talked about the the relationship between Elijah and Elisha, and also the relationship between Judas and Matthias. And I want to talk about the latter here. What we've rehearsed the most is Judas betraying Jesus. Absolutely. Judas betrayed Jesus. We all know that it started the crucifixion in motion, right? The sacrifice in motion. But what we don't talk about is found in Acts 1. After Judas betrayed Jesus, there was a vacancy. There was a vacancy. They needed 12 apostles. Now they had 11. Now that Judas was dead, and there was a vacancy. And what the Bible tells us, let me actually go to that scripture. Acts 1 verse 21. Let's go ahead and read it. And I'm going to read it in the NIV because this is the 21 and 22 are the verses that I really want to hone in on. So Acts 1, 21, 22 says, therefore it is necessary, and this is Peter talking. Peter is saying, hey, we need to choose another apostle, which means that the Bible did the disciples did consider Judas as an apostle, because if you read the chapter, you'll see that they need a replacement for Judas. So it says, verse 21, therefore it is necessary to choose one of the men who have been with us the whole time the Lord Jesus was living among us, beginning from John's baptism to the time when Jesus was taken up from us. For one of these must become a witness with us of his resurrection. Verse 23, let me read that real quick. It says, so they nominated 2 men, Joseph, called Barsabas, also known as Justus, and Matthias. Okay, so when we look at this chapter, we see that these 2 men, Joseph, and Matthias, were both in the presence of Jesus with the other apostle. They were there. We didn't know that they were there because they wasn't highlighted anything, but they were there according to Peter. So Peter is saying, we need this vacancy filled. We need to continue on the work of the Lord, and we need to choose a replacement. Here are 2 people who have been with us this entire time, who have seen the same things we've seen, who've done the training that we've done, who's been reading from the same playbook. They have intimate knowledge, all of these things. He's saying, let's choose someone who was already right here to replace them. So you know the scripture and the story goes on to say that they cast lots. First Peter prays, says, Lord, basically, you know everyone's heart. Who should we choose? So they cast lots, and the lot fell to Matthias, and Matthias actually takes the place of Judas. Why am I telling you this? The fascinating thing, y'all, is that Matthias was there the whole time. At the same time that Jesus was talking to Peter, James, John, and the other folks, Matthias was there listening. He was there talking to Matthias as well. We didn't know about Matthias for real because Judas had the spotlight on him. Judas had the leading role. But the moment that Judas made a counter decision, his replacement was called in, right? His replacement was called in. And that is what I really want you to remind yourself as you're contemplating these destiny moments, is that your replacement was also born in the same generation that you were born in. They were also born for such a time as this. So just in case you decide, I don't want to make this decision, just in case you decide this is just the worst time of my life, I can't do this, your replacement is called in. I have a very real example, and y'all have heard me use this example before, and it was 2022 when I was doing the Let There Be challenge, and a lot of folks started to follow me from that challenge. And I was going through the hardest season, y'all, of my life. A year and a half of turmoil, a year and a half of heartbreak, a year and a half of healing, just a really hard year and a half. And the challenge took off. It wasn't even supposed to be a challenge. I just posted a video, not thinking about it. And all of a sudden, I get all these thousands of followers. And I'm like, I ain't ready for this. What if I didn't make the challenge a challenge? What if I was like, I'm not prepared for this. I don't have a team. I don't have anything. What if I didn't seize the moment? What if I would have missed an important moment? You probably wouldn't know anything about me. You probably wouldn't be learning about the kingdom. You probably wouldn't be building and thriving, right? But I didn't. I said, okay, I didn't anticipate this. This was not my timing. Let me go ahead and do what I can do. And I did. I did the best that I could to seize the opportunity that God gave me. And for 6 weeks, I was flying by the seat of my pants with God for 6 weeks. And I could have said no, though. I could have said, I'm hurting. I'm trying to heal. This isn't right for me. And there is a season where you should do that. But then there's also the season where you have to recognize that you've been walking with God so closely that he's saying, I know you hurt, but I still have purpose in this season for you. I know you hurt, insert your name here. I know you're tired, but this season, I need you to seize this opportunity that's coming up before you. What if this is your opportunity right now? What if the season that you feel like is the worst season of your life, is the worst time, is actually the best time? The best time according to God. What if? What if you push through your feelings? What if you push through your emotions? What if you push through all the setbacks, all the hardships, and just said, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in with you, God. And I'm going to trust that you're just going to carry me through. What if? What if it works out? What if it ends up being the best decision that you ever could have made? What if? What if it's the thing that you've actually been waiting for and just circumstances just came together to try to cheat you out of that moment? What if you decide to defy the status quo? What if you make a decision that will change your entire life and also change your future generations? Are you prepared to step into the next, even when you feel like, sorry y'all, this is my mama calling. What if you step into the next, even when you feel like you're unprepared? I hope you would choose to journey with God. I do. And step into it even in the midst of everything. I hope this has inspired you to take a different look at your season. Even if you feel like this shouldn't be the right season, but God is saying, no, this is the right season. Go with God. Go with God. Make the hard decisions, because on the other side of this decision is what you've been waiting for. I hope this has encouraged you. If this has, please like the video, subscribe, share with a friend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.